Welcome to the Save the Planet Challenge, hosted by Marissa over at Miss Flips. Check out her channel and all of the other YouTubers that are going to be in this playlist. So you can see I've kind of been a little bit eco-friendly for a long time, aka a hoarder. I especially love parts of chairs. I love ladders. I love drawers. I love chairs. It's kind of an obsession. So I'm going to take a few items today and do 3 eco-friendly quick flips. The first one is a chalkboard drawer shelf. So we're just taking an ordinary drawer and we're going to clean it with vinegar and water, which is very eco-friendly. So I'm removing this hardware, and you know, this is something to consider. They sell metal versions of these. That might be something that's more sustainable and reusable when you're assembling drawers. So that's something to consider. So I'm just taking the hardware off. And I am taking the handle off, but I am going to reuse it. I set out using my cordless screw gun, but the head was a Phillips head or a flathead, and I had a Phillips in there. So I ended up just using a regular screwdriver. And I suppose that's an eco-friendly move as well. Another thing you'll notice here too is I'm not using paper towels. I'm using a rag. So that I tend to sometimes overuse paper towels. So using a sanding sponge too helps me to not eat through a ton of sandpaper.
Before I start any paint project, I look in my stash of paint to see if there's anything that's open already that I can use, either to finish it up or just use it so I don't have to open a new jar. So I wanted to use caviar. So here's what I found. Even though this paint is dried up, I'm not going to throw it away. I am going to reuse it. I usually take my Mr. bottle and spray it, because putting a little water in there and mixing it up with the brush, I'll be able to use it for a small project. So that's one way not to be wasteful. And then another way is choosing your paint carefully. This has 0 VOCs, so I feel good using this paint. So just think, before you run to the store and grab another jar of paint. I have paint at my access, of course, being a retailer for Dixie Belle, so I have it anytime I want it, I can get it. But at home, different supplies, different things, lots of times, you know, if you don't look and see what you have, basically being organized and knowing where it is, then that ends up in multiple purchases and just wastefulness. Another point, I'm not the best brush mom, I always say that, but yet my brushes have lasted me for years. So they look horrible and well used, but if you take care of them, then you're not always buying new brushes. And, you know, unless you're really not wanting to clean up a mess, maybe avoid using disposable brushes, things like that, that we're always throwing away, especially if they have plastic handles.
So I'm going to be painting chalkboard on this drawer back. Now I am using the Dixie Belle Caviar paint. You can use any chalk style paint to do this, and you can use any color. So I'll show you the method, and please don't mind my appearance because it's hot. So the thing I'm doing here is cutting in, but I'm painting in one direction.
So I mentioned before, when I go to my stash to pick up some paint, immediately I thought about French linen before I even went there, so I was happy to find some French linen. But let's look at my French linen. There's a little bit of moisture in there, but pretty much just a drop. So what I'm going to do is just take my Mr. bottle of water and just take my brush and just swirl it around in there and reconstitute my paint. Now you might have to do this pretty often And I also suggest you spray your brush and maybe even the piece because it'll be pretty thick. But it's still going on beautifully. So make your paint last. Don't waste it.
And now I am painting in the opposite direction. When you're painting a chalkboard, you want to keep building up layers of paint in opposite directions until you get the desired color. And remember, you can use any color paint. Dixie Belle's Tree Frog Green is an awesome color to get that vintage chalkboard look as well if you don't want the black, or again, any color. Now I'm taking eco-friendly Voodoo Gel Stain. It's a water-based stain, so you don't have all of the smells and everything that are happening with regular oil-based stain. It's just giving me what I need for this project. It's just a little bit of color, and I do love this stain. I use it for lots of things. So Marissa mentioned in her video, which you should watch, and I'll put the link to it, not just the link from this challenge, but she did another one on Earth Day, and she mentioned some eco-friendly tips, and one of them was using transfers being kind of wasteful. I never thought about that. You know, I love a good transfer every now and then, but I'm really into stamping, and so this is more sustainable, and it just gives a little bit of character to your piece, especially something like this. But it's great on furniture, so I'm using an IOD stamp with Ranger's Distress ink. I'm just putting that handle on there just to see what it looks like. I didn't even clean it. I like it because the colors kind of lend itself. And I just distressed the stamp a little bit by sanding. And note, I'm using that same pad. So lots of times I grab my a piece of chain from my stash of chain, and using that same Dixie Belle Caviar paint. Normally I would use patina, but maybe the regular paint is a little more eco-friendly. And now I'm just using a little screw to start a hole there and driving in a screw eye that will accommodate my chain. I'm just using jewelry pliers to attach the chain to it. I started using a screwdriver to turn this screw eye in, but I ended up using an old screw. Again, I don't throw anything away, but you could see the tip was off of that screw. So now it's time to condition the chalkboard. So just take a piece of chalk and put it on its side and just cover the entire piece and then wipe it off. And then you're ready to write on your chalkboard. So I'll make a list because everybody needs eggs, milk, bread, and M&Ms, right? So I'm a grammar kind of junkie, so I don't know if that apostrophe belongs there. Pretty sure it doesn't because it's not possessive, but it's kind of odd putting an S at the end of an M when it's just an M. So give me your thoughts on that. So here's how this project turned out. I love it because you can use it for a shelf as well. And you notice I tied the chalk in on the handle there too. So it's just a nice little thing you can add in your kitchen or entranceway just for reminders and such. Number 2 is the ladder shelf. So as I mentioned, I have a lot of drawers, so I thought this would be a great project to use up some of those drawers as well as a ladder. I may use this as a display piece in the shop, but I think I'll put it for sale as well. So I'm removing the hardware again, the drawer glides, and also these safety features. So, you know, it is important when you have a toddler that you keep cabinet doors and drawers very safe, especially if you have any harmful cleaning products in there. But think about it a little bit and see if there are some more sustainable kind of products out there that aren't plastic, because after your toddler grows up, you know, you're going to be getting rid of those and most likely throwing them away. So try and think about that a little bit as well. So there were 2 drawers that were the same here, and I kind of wanted a little bit of difference, but they fit in the ladder nicely. So I'm removing the front of this one. And trust me when I tell you, I spent way too long trying to remove the front of this drawer. These drawers were so well made, but I just wanted that different look, and I was going for a real rustic look here. So again, when I tell you I spent too long doing that, trust me, because I didn't show it all to save you some of the gruesome details. Finally, success. Now I have a drawer front that I can use for a sign to repurpose. But it left the front of the drawer in kind of bad condition just because there was a lot of adhesive on there. So I'm just sanding it a little bit, and then I'm going to use, I did use a product called LiQWYD, which I didn't film, but might not be the most sustainable thing, but the part I did like about it is you only mix as much as you need, so it's not wasteful. And I did kind of supplement it then with some Dixie mud. Now I am using wood glue here to just repair some of the veneer that's peeling on these drawers and just clamping them. So this project is very rustic, and I'm not worrying too much about these things, but I also want them to be in the state of basic repair anyway before I put some paint on them. Also, aside from my chalkboard project, all of these projects are just basically one coat of paint projects, quick and easy, very rustic looking. You'll find they're all very cohesive and very eco-friendly because I used less than 1 jar of paint for all 3 projects. So spoiler alert, there's another project coming up, and I'm just using clamps here just to hold those down and getting rid of the excess glue. Now, I love the patina of the ladder. I'm not going to paint it at all. To me, there's nothing cooler than a painted ladder, or a ladder that got paint on it over the years. So I am cleaning it with the vinegar water solution, and I'm also checking it to make sure there's no splinters, or there were some nails that were sticking out. So just check for those types of things, because if it is going to be, for in my case, a display in the store or for purchase, if it's going to go into someone's home, you don't want them to catch their clothes on it, or their skin, obviously. I'm applying some mismatched handles with mismatched screws, all from my stash. I did not fill the holes in this yet, but I will. And I'm just going to use the Dixie mud to do that. I'm making sure that the screws I selected didn't go through the other side, and they did not. And again, I'm using that mud just to fill holes and spots on the drawers that need it. And then when that dries, I give it a quick sand. doing that on all the drawers. When I'm sanding this one, I discover another split in it, so I'm going to glue and clamp that, and we'll paint that one a little bit later. I ended up putting one big clamp on this, but I need some more clamps, so meanwhile I'm using some tape. So finally I can wipe these drawers off and get started with some paint. Again, I'm using that same Zero VOC Caviar paint from Dixie Belle, and really pretty much doing one coat. If you will, I do sort of what's called a half coat on them too. So when they're done, I just kind of look at them and touch them up a little bit. Again, going for a rustic look here. And on to the last drawer, same thing, giving it a wipe and a coat of paint. This one takes a good bit of paint because I did a lot of patching and repair on the surface of this one. And again, I'm adding various drawer pulls with assorted screws that have been upcycled as well. There's that half coat of paint that I mentioned previously. I decide to add a little something to this project, another stamp just to give it a little flair, and again using an IOD stamp with that Ranger Distress ink. And I like the look that it added to this project, and I just love how functional and beautiful this can be. Our final upcycle project is the chair bench. Here I've taken a couple old chairs and I'm just going to make a little bench out of them. So these are old restaurant chairs that were given to me, and the boards are actually not new either. They were old shelves in my previous store, and I'm just setting this one on here and taking the pencil and drawing the line underneath and using my jigsaw to cut that curved line. I just continue to measure then where the next piece meets, and this one I was able to hold up as well and make a pattern. The next one I had to actually use parchment paper to make a pattern for it, but this one I was just able to hold up in place and just trace out the shape and cut it again with a jigsaw. I use a piece of wood to kind of bridge the gap between those two areas that I was tracing. Great fit. And again, I measure the end piece and used some parchment paper. Now, just like a sewing pattern, it actually had kind of darts in it where the section kind of curved. So when I cut it out, I kept those in place just to make sure that I had the right curve on my pattern. And I used a straight edge to get that area that I wasn't able to trace because the two chairs met and kind of there was a little negative space there. So just filling that in, and same procedure, and I can't find my pencil. So I'm just using between a straight edge and also freehanding to trace the shape onto the wood. Back to the saw. And I have another good fit. So now it's time to paint. Again, I'm getting more out of that same jar of paint. And I like to start painting chairs upside down. I'm also, again, only using one coat on this. I love the look of one coat of this caviar paint on a wood surface. It just kind of lets you see the wood through it in a way, yet it changes the whole feel of it. And I do treat it with Dixie Belle's Easy Peasy spray wax when I'm all done to seal it. Not sure if I show that or not, but yeah, so I'm piecing those pieces back together after the painting is done, and I'm joining them with some wood glue and putting a clamp on it. And again, I need more clamps. After the glue's dry, I take some batting. Again, I had this in my stash, and an old coffee sack that someone gave me at one point in time, or else I picked up at a flea market. Either way, it's a repurpose of an existing item, and I'm just using the staple gun and tightly stapling that on, and hammering down any of the staples that don't go in all the way. And then when that's done, I just trim off all the excess fabric so it's not sticking out all over the place. And then I do a dry fit on the bench, and then I kind of turn it, I kind of pick them both up at the same time and turn it on its side to screw in the seat again, the seats using the same screws that I pulled out of the original seats. So I kind of have to finesse this a little bit and undo some of it because it wasn't quite straight, and redo. So just takes a few minutes and we get it together. I did another row of stamping at the top of the chair seats because, again, I thought it made it cohesive and I really liked the look. So what do you think of my 3 quick flip upcycled projects? Hopefully they were pretty eco-friendly. Let me know in the comments what you think and which one was your favorite. Please check out my Amazon wish list and also the super thanks button at the bottom of the video screen. I sure do appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, how about giving it a thumbs up and also share it with your friends? If you haven't subscribed, you'll want to do that so you don't miss anything. Visit us at lavintagedecor.company, and on Instagram we're LaVintage Decor, and on Facebook we're LaVintage Decor Altoona. Stay well.